What up, random rockers? Alright. Justice League. This film we'll talk about today, technically directed by Zack Snyder. Joshua Whedon was kind of put into screenplay, even though he kind of finished up the post-production for this. And yeah, the time I had this recorded, it's Sunday. Seen it Friday. I'd like to see it again. It's because given everything that's going on with this film, this is the best thing. This is the second best, maybe, and it's tied with Man of Steel in terms of like second best film that the DC Cinematic Universe has given us. So, and man, there will be some spoilers. If I do, I'm probably gonna have to take this old hat off. So, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm enjoying. A lot of people will have. It has its flaws. Mostly the villain, but for the most part, this is called Justice League. We are here to focus on the Justice League themselves. And yes, for those who have seen some of the trailers and all this other bullshit, yes, he's there, he's in there. It's more in how they handle him. That's, I think, is going to be the bit of an issue. Oh, and also, by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm back at this set here. No big deal. But anyway, yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed this film. The best things, each character was. Batman was finally done a little more closer to what you would like. Tonally, it's definitely a better shift, and of course, a good progression from where we left off with BVS. But I would say, and it seems Wonder Woman tonally leaving off not just from BVS, but from what we wound up getting out of the character more so in Wonder Woman seems to have shown up a little bit more here in this film. So a lot of what we've gotten out of BVS and what we got out of Wonder Woman are what we have to go off of for Wonder Woman and Batman. So there's not much to really develop other than what we've gotten out of those films. Same can be said for Superman between Man of Steel and BVS to a degree. And some people, like, if you could at least go off of what they did with those two films and how you, especially if you rely more on the Ultimate Edition of BVS, I guess, from what I hear, still have yet to see it. In that regard, past the theatrical release itself, this film is, there's definitely some development. It's just how they chose to handle it, which I will get to in my spoiler review, part of the review. Overall, I've enjoyed this film. I liked Cyborg. A lot of people will be coming out of this film talking about and looking forward to Jason Momoa's Aquaman when that film comes out next year. Though the thing this film had its issues. It's 2 hour. The 2 hour man. Warner Brothers just needs to quit meddling with shit. The fact that this film turned out as good as it did, given all the meddling and all that bullshit, is the biggest surprise of it all. It's a bit of a shame that it's going to underperform, as in it's going to not even it's barely going to even touch. It's going to be 4 million it's right now projecting at 96 million box office total for its opening weekend. Not making very much, not even making anywhere close to 100 mil. Second opening weekend, hopefully during like Thanksgiving and all that, people might still come out and see the thing, if not for like films like Wonder, which I think might be another reason why it's not doing so hot, on top of, all the superhero fatigue that BVS pretty well started initially. This film seems to have done better, or at least they're not tonally, they seem to have been finally shifted and went into the right direction. But the fact that this is not being a commercial success, the real issue is just Warner Brothers needs to stop meddling with shit so much. And Zack Snyder had an issue because his daughter had killed himself, so he was having him and his wife, I guess, who's also I'm trying to remember her name, but who was also someone involved with a lot of Snyder's films as well. Deborah, I think. I could be wrong. I'm sorry if that's not her name for some of you Snyder fans out there, I guess, wherever you are. But yes, I definitely enjoyed this. Some people will say something about the whole mustache thing because of his involvement as a villain for Mission Impossible 6, I think, is the number we're on now with that one. But anyway, and it's the beginning of this film is where that is noticeable, but past that, not really. Barely noticeable as far as I'm concerned, unless you were really looking hard. But I just barely even noticed it as much. Or CGI mouthpiece or whatever. I barely noticed it. I mean, there might have been some point where the small little points where the lip might have been, the upper lip might have seemed a little bit more fuller than it should be, maybe in places, but that really wasn't mostly noticeable outside of the very beginning of this film. So I don't see the complaints in that regard. Especially some people are going to complain about how Superman is becomes involved in this. And some people are not going to feel like what we finally wanted out of Superman is even considered as earned, even though after what we've put up with from what we got out of Man of Steel, what we've put up with in BVS, yeah, it wasn't it was earned. It was earned enough that they even bothered to finally get him right. Maybe how we led to him might not have been the best, but given the circumstances of how this film went about, the fact that it was handled as best as they could. There's some ideas that Mark Raleigh had touched on in his spoiler review that I will probably touch upon as well once we get more involved with that, but I loved Ray Fisher definitely played well with Cyborg. I wish they could have showed us a little more on his development. He did. I liked him still, and there's a certain time where he says a certain phrase that I was like, yes, because I've been waiting for it since, I've kind of got into the Teen Titans series. The original one, not the Teen Titans Go that all the younger whippersnappers nowadays are watching. But other than, and of course, especially with, Ezra Miller's Flash was awesome. He pretty well catered to every person in this theater watching this, or at least any DC fanboy, or any Justice League fanboy in general out there would be like, oh, and we'd been doing the same thing. Like I said, the villain was kind of crap, but, like I said, the main focus is on the Justice League itself and developing them, or at least the main 5 specifically, more so or less, and even Aquaman, and man, there was a lot more of Whedon's humor kind of, and the color palette is a lot brighter tonally compared to what Zack Snyder usually gives us, and that's because of Joss Whedon's involvement in post-production, some of the reshooting, and yeah, it has its mess. It's a bit messy, but it's not to the point where they weren't able to salvage it and make an actually good, fun, entertaining film. At least far more fun than past films have ever been. Wonder Woman is at least was still kind of fun in the sense of that it was just for the sheer quality and great storytelling alone, which is there's not much in it, but you don't need to really worry about that as much as just trying to develop the characters. And I knew from the way of hearing all this other stuff, and at least from the trailers itself, I'd have been happy if this was good, or in the sense that it was better than Suicide Squad or BVS. Anything we got out of last year when it came to the EU films. But I am happy that I wasn't expecting this to be great like Wonder Woman. I'd have been almost happy if it could have at least been on par with Man of Steel, and it seems to have done so. As far as I am concerned, with what little I have seen, it's definitely going to possibly, until I see some other films, it'll probably wind up in my top 10 for sure. I don't know if it'll be in, I doubt it'll make top 5, but we'll, when I look through all the other ones, we'll see what happens with that. But overall, man, I thought, it's, I mean, it should be a thumbs up. I don't, dude, they've done enough in this film. Even the post-credit scenes, it just rocks all the way. And as far as I'm concerned, now it's the time for spoilers in 3. If you haven't seen this, you should leave in 3, 2, 1. The beginning is something with these kids, and of course that's where the whole thing with the CGI mouth is starts to show off, but it just doesn't seem to really rear its ugly head all that much later in the film when we do finally get to see Superman and how they bring him back. Though the thing that really is one of the best in terms of in terms of all of this thing that really brings the team to a head against each other, but also kind of winds up sort of bringing them together in a messed up way, was them deciding to bring Superman back the way Lex Luthor chose to bring Zod back and made him Doomsday in BVS, which a lot of people are complaining about. I could have complained about it, but the way they were handling this as pretty well a way of actually developing the characters and the team dynamic for the Justice League was enough, especially given Batman could have had better contingency plans, don't get me wrong. Hell, I'd have loved Riley's idea of the Fortress, Mark Riley of Schmoes and Collider, more specifically Collider Nightmares. I'd have loved his idea of the Fortress, the Solitude idea, getting us more involved in getting more enrichment of Superman's lore. That would have been nice, even nicer. But what we got, given everything that's happened with the train wreck behind the scenes and everything for this film, the fact that we managed to salvage this and make it worthwhile and give us a great scene, kind of horrifying, but really shows the level of power scaling when it comes to these characters. And even more so in terms of how much Steppenwolf is such a little bitch in terms if you're dealing with a Kryptonian. And why it just... And we do know... the backstory was the best thing involving Steppenwolf we ever got, because we got to see a lot of nice little things. We get to see, I guess, Zeus? Finally? Or at least to a degree? Or something that might have relate to eventually Shazam and Black Adam and all that stuff, Which I'm hoping Zachary Levi does alright. I don't know how they're going to handle Shazam itself. I have no issues with the Black Adam thing. Dwayne Johnson's going to do just fine with that. Dwayne Johnson's going to do just fine, as far as I'm concerned. And when that comes around, we'll talk about that more. But regardless of that, I'm hoping it's Zeus because of what happened with Wonder Woman. For those of you who haven't seen it, I guess it's kind of spoilers. It's only been out for like a few months, so yeah, there's that. I will say, I really enjoyed the Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Did have this kind of surfer bro-ish kind of thing going on, and bro jock thing. Yeah, they could have gotten for some people to a degree, but instead it actually worked and made him somewhat likable character. And more funnier scene was him going off into this weird tangent of some sort while they were while in the one submarine thing or whatever Batman had stationed up, sitting on the Batmobile. It turns out it was sitting on his lasso, and just kind of it was one of the funnier scenes in the film. But a lot of the funnier scenes was mostly with Flash, and even most of the scenes that were still from the trailer itself, even though we've already seen him in the trailer already, even going into the movie, they still worked. They still worked in the film. Surprisingly. That's something to be accommodated for and to be said. Ugh. Bad. Just like a bat. Dig it. Ugh, gee, and there's like a little bit more. There's not a whole lot of. There's a slight underusing of Jim Gordon here, but J.K. Simmons is serviceable in that regard, and the first meeting with the Bat Signal was great. Cyborg was nice. Finally, when they ended their fight with Steppenwolf, I've been waiting throughout this entire film for Booyah. Fucking Booyah, god damn it. It was awesome. That's some servicing right there. And the way they end this film too, the exactly like this, mother F, and up and away. not saying up and away, or else that'd just ruin the whole thing, but yeah, it was awesome. The choice of scores to really tease people. Danny Elfman for score, and a little bit of the one version that's in the mixed in from the Danny Elfman score from Batman 89 mixed in with the Batman animated series score, intro score, kind of moshed together, was somehow beautifully done. There was I barely even noticed a slight moment of the John Williams score for the Richard Donner era, Christopher Reeves era Superman films, or at least the ones that he was in during that time. That was good, worth talking about. Then there's, wow, I mean, the way they brought Superman back. I mean, at least it may not have made any sense, but how they tried to handle it wasn't bad. And the Pet Cemetery joke was just from Flash was just wonderful, and just wonderfully timed. At the statue that you see, where you see everyone but Batman or Superman lined up, that's because those guys are really fights, and some reason that makes no sense. Just only to be there just to piss Superman off was just a random malfunction from Cyborg. I was like, seriously? I don't know if it was a mother box tampering BS or what, but that kind of was annoying. But once after it was happening, and we got to see the fight happening the way it did, the funniest scene is during this, where Flash is trying to go up, and it's like, I'm just waiting for it to happen, and when it happened, the look on Flash's face is fucking priceless. Where he's like holding up man while Flash is running around behind him, and he's like just looking up behind him, and like, and you see just Flash like running like, oh shit. And about to just how he pounds them all down to the ground. Just, it's not that Wonder Woman nor Aquaman didn't try to put up fights. Well, mostly Wonder Woman, it seems. But yeah, that was wow. But yeah, it just shows how OP Superman is, just as much as the comics. Which I think a lot of fans, just seeing that was enough to make fans even like, oh shit. And then, of course, bring out the big gun, that he was finally, which she was hinted at earlier. Though, before they did this, it was like, you could tell some people didn't agree with this, with Batman's idea of things, and it led to a big argument between Wonder Woman and Batman. And him throwing the Steve Trevor bomb. Anyone who's seen Wonder Woman, hearing this, you don't blame Wonder Woman. You don't throw the Steve Trevor bomb on her. She will fuck you up. And anybody did, it's like, I'll fucking do that. Say that again, bitch. I'm like, goddamn. She doesn't say it like that, but he may as well have. It's like, yeah, Batman, shut the fuck up now. I mean, I understand, like, you know you fucked up, and that's why you felt you needed Superman to come back, because, you know, he's gonna try to fix the shit you fucked up. But it was like, no, leave sleeping dogs lie, even though it makes no... the only problem with them doing this, it would just make less sense in terms of... It does still make me wonder what Zack Snyder's vision would have been for bringing Superman back, you know? If they were going to actually go with the Return of Superman, or Return of Superman storyline or not. And there's still potential for it, I guess. And yeah, they just easily took out Steppenwolf. And the things dynamics between them and Flash, especially the post-credit scene, the race thing. Oh my god, that was awesome. But that was a fun one too. Even when they were trying to bet, like him betting, like you're off the team, and stuff, just like, what? And he's like, you could tell it was, and then he gives a smile, like he was like, I'm fucking with you, dude. And it's like, oh, that's a good one. And then he just says, oh, everyone, instead, how about just everyone to brunch or something? Which was the whole joke within the film when it came to how weird Flash is about brunch. They didn't really... There were so many, like, certain dialogue ideas that were involved and written and handled the way they were that were kind of, but didn't bother me as much because there was enough more good action sequences and really, like, cool things going on that made you go, like, yeah, like, made your jaw drop, or just made you go, like, ooh, yeah, to make up for all of it. And the final post-credit scene with Lex Luthor and finally getting to see Joe, forgive me, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name. I know he's, like, boning one of the chicks. His wife is Sarah, I can't even have her name right, so fuck it. The one supposed hot mom from Modern Family, but she's not really. Whatever. That's with a guy who used to be Al Bundy or something, for those of you who are 90s kids, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, his Deathstroke was actually like old Deathstroke, in terms of old Deathstroke, especially if you're going off Injustice, having played the Injustice game. But speaking of that, during that fight scene, there was a moment where between Superman and Steppenwolf that literally felt like it came out of the Injustice 2 game. There might be some people who complain about it, but since, Injustice is a little more current in terms of CGI, that's not going to be a problem. At least not currently. It could be in the future when they make games that are CGI will come off far more realistic and superior to whenever the hell the Injustice game, especially more of the Injustice 2 game. So I don't see the problem in this. The only time it'll be dated is like 5 to 10 years down the road. I'm not even worried about it at this point. But which was fine. Just that the way that scene was handled was just literally felt like it came off of that. It was crazy. But I kind of liked it for that reason. It was like, because I've kind of played the games. I didn't get to do Justice 2, but the first one I did, so. And the graphics come off more Injustice 2 than anything. So yeah. Whew, man. I finally did, and of course, going back to that one scene with the Steppenwolf and just the armies of Atlanteans, of man, and the tribes of man, the Atlanteans, the Amazons, all going up, and we not only get to see Zeus, we get to see a Green Lantern character. Though he gets offed, the rain leaves him and goes to find another, which was done fucking well. Finally, something involving Green Lantern in film that DC is finally doing right. It's not that they didn't try, it just was with the first time they tried to do Green Lantern, but it was just kind of a mess, and it wasn't even Ryan Reynolds' fault. If anything, I don't think Ryan Reynolds may have regretted being involved in the film, but he probably doesn't regret the fact that it's kind of the reason why he has his hot-ass wife, because she was also in that film too. And, if we have Deadpool, and he's, Ryan Reynolds has made it up to us big time. I could give a fuck less. However they're going to do Green Lantern, I'm definitely, if anything, I'm looking forward to seeing whenever they're going to bring out Green Lantern Corps, if anything at all. given how this is going to go. This could ruin DCU, and that's what's going to piss me off. If this is the last thing we'll ever see, and we're not going to even get to see the Aquaman movie. It's like Cyborg was fine. I don't see him being able to pull out a standalone. The dad who played the father was cool, in the sense, you know, the guy who was in Terminator 2 and in an old TV show that used to be on Sci-Fi called Eureka. If you haven't ever seen that, dude, check that shit out. It's quite entertaining for being, you know, sort of a melodramatic thing involving weird, freaky science stuff, and that's almost X-Files-ish, but not necessarily as creepy or anything, just kind of fun crazy. You'll know what I mean when you see that show, but dang. This movie was fun. I love how they ended things with Superman coming out, and just, you know, like I said, that both way. I already said that, I think. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, and finally, Jesse Eisenberg is still kind of Lex Luthor, but this time, he actually acts like he's fucking Lex Luthor. The bald head and everything in this post-credit scene, and he actually acts more so like Lex Luthor should. So they're finally doing that right, and fucking up, and not what we got out of BVS, which was atrocious. They made up for that big time with this post-credit scene, and hinted at Injustice League, Injustice Society, or Legion of Doom, something of that regard. Either way, it's gonna be fucking awesome if they actually pull this off. Because right now, we're finally in a good step in the right direction. It's just a shame that this box office ordeal is going to make it seem like it's not. And, you know, sure, there could have been... I'd love to see what we would have gotten out of Zack Snyder's if there was an Ultimate Edition. Whatever cuts would have been. If anything, just seeing what bonus features, it would be interesting once it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray. And all those other media outlets once it's done with its theatrical run. But like I said, I really did enjoy this film. What did you guys think about it? Comment below, let me know. Rock that like button with thrust if you must. And as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care, y'all.